Hi there! We're talking about plants and flowers again today. So let's review the things that a plant needs to grow. A living plant needs to grow. What does it need? It needs sun and light. It needs water. And it needs good soil with food in it. It gets its food and nourishment from the soil. Now let's do another word ladder like we did yesterday where we make the words grow. They don't need food and water. They just need you to change the letter to go from one word to another. We're going to start by making the word cup. Listen to the three sounds that you hear. Cup. K, p. What makes the k sound? C. What makes the next sound? K, U. What makes the last sound? Cup. P. P. K, up. Cup. Now we're going to change cup to pup. Which letter do we need to change? Cup, pup. Those words rhyme. That tells me that the end up is the same. Which letter do we need to add to the beginning? Pup, p, p. P, 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 pup. Good. Now we're going to change pup to pop. P, pup, p, pop. I hear the P in both. Listen to the ending sound. Pup, pop, p, p. I hear a P in both. So that tells me just the middle vowel needs to change. Pup to pop, p, ah. What letter? O, p, op, pop. Now we're going to change pop to mop. Pop, mop. Those words rhyme. That tells me the end stays the same. Op. What letter do I need to put at the front? Mop. M. Op. Mop. Now we've got a tricky one. We're going to change mop to mow. Mop, mow. I hear the M at the beginning. What two letters can make the sound O for mow? O and W. O and W together can say O. Mow. Good. Now read all these words. Mow, mop, pop, pup, and cup. Good job. Let's do another one. This time we're going to start with the word nut. Nut. What letters do I need? N. T. Nut. Nut. Now we're going to change nut to cut. Nut, cut. Those words rhyme. That tells me ut can move up. What's the new first sound for cut? Cut. K, k. C. Good. If you guessed K, that makes the same sound, but the word cut is spelled with a C. Now we're going to change cut to cat. Cut, cat. I hear the C at the beginning of both. Listen to the end. Cut, cat. The end is the same for the T. That tells me the vowel changes in the middle. Cut, our new vowel is cat. cat. A, cat, cat. Now we're going to change cat to can. One sound changes. Which one is it? Cat, can. K. They both start with k. Cat, can. They both have the a. The end sound changes. Cat, can. What letter goes at the end of can? Can. Can. Good. Now we're going to change can to van. Can, van. Those words rhyme because the end is the same. So we're going to move an up. What new sound goes at the beginning to make van? V. Van. Good. Can you read these words with me? Van, can, cat, cut, nut. Good. Now we're going to read some of those words without the pictures. What does this word say? Cat, cup, pop, nut, pup, cut, can, mop, van. Remember what OW can say. Mow. Great job. Now, how does a plant actually grow? We know it needs soil and light and water, but what happens to it as it changes? Well, we know from our book yesterday that it starts as a seed. Starts as a little seed that gets planted in the soil. And then, while it's in the soil, the seed, we know, cracks open and the roots start to grow down. What happens next? Then, after the roots grow down, it starts to grow up. And we get a sprout that comes out of the ground and starts to grow up. Then it grows bigger, and the leaves grow, and eventually the flower grows. So I have some pictures here. We start with the picture of a seed. What happens next? The roots grow down, and it starts to grow up. What happens next? The sprout starts to come up out of the soil. The roots are growing down, and the plant is now starting to go up out of the soil. Then it continues to grow. The sprout gets bigger and starts to grow leaves. Then eventually, the flower, or the vegetable, or the fruit, or the tree starts to bloom. And then it just keeps growing and gets bigger and bigger. Your job today is to tell the plant life cycle to somebody in your house. Starts with a seed. The roots grow down. The sprout comes up through the soil. The leaves start to grow. And then the flower blooms. Today I have a story for you about something that starts growing from a seed and grows and grows and grows until it's very, very big. This is a fiction story, so we know this is a made-up story because this plant is going to grow super fast and super big. Our book is Mrs. McNosh and the Great Big Squash. And it's written by Sarah Weeks. So what do we call her? The author. And the person that drew the pictures is Nadine Bernard Westcott. So what do we call her? The illustrator. Let's read it together. Mrs. McNosh and the Great Big Squash. Written by Sarah Weeks. Illustrated by Nadine Bernard Westcott. Mrs. McNosh and the Great Big Squash. The first day of spring, Mrs. Nellie McNosh went out to her garden and planted a squash. She pushed the seed in with the tip of her toe, and the minute she did, it started to grow. At first, it was round and as big as a head. In fact, it looked like the paperboy Fred. Then it turned yellow and bumpy and fat. It rolled from the garden and flattened the cat. It knocked over trash cans and ran over toes. It twisted the sprinkler and plugged up the hose. It crashed through the clothesline and smashed through the fence, scaring the pants off two elderly gents. Poor Nellie was worried. She said, "Oh my gosh, there's got to be some way to slow down this squash." She slapped it and scolded it, pinched it and kicked it, and then she took hold of its stem and she picked it. "Now what do I do?" wondered Mrs. McNosh. "I've got to find something to do with this squash. There isn't a place in the world it will fit. It's as big as a house." "Wait," said Nellie. "That's it!" And so, by the light of a big yellow moon, she scooped and she scraped with a long-handled spoon. And when the sun rose, where was Mrs. McNosh? Curled up, sound asleep, in her big yellow squash. That's definitely a great big squash. But even though we know it couldn't really grow that fast, it still follows the same life cycle. It starts as a seed, the roots grow down, the sprout comes up out of the soil, the leaves start to grow, and then the flower or the vegetable or the fruit starts to bloom. That's your job today. Go and find someone in your house and tell them about the life cycle of a plant. I'll see you tomorrow.